Welcome to the Clock Tower. I am Brandon here with Colton, and today we are doing the Guilty Gear deck that we previewed earlier this week, the Pants Choice build. And Colton, what are we playing up against?
8 Pants Revue Starlight. I think this deck is very good for testing purposes. It's kind of the backup quarterback of Weiss decks. It's very good in practice and can be pressed into service if you need it. Very vanilla, Maguro level 1 into an actually pretty good level 3 combo. Also worth noting that the giraffe in my waiting room is not actually the giraffe, that's a placeholder for the PR blinker that was the free fight promo for Springfest. Or for, not Springfest, for the BCS season. But that card doesn't exist in Weiss Fight yet, so.
Fair enough. I begin with the Fuka to come in and play. Get the blue fix already and ready, so I'm ready to go for level 1 for blue. I have one of the stock chargers already in hand, so I'm kind of like really ready to go for 1 if I get rushed to 1. But I have some things I can do and mess around with at 0 if I need to.
So I get free top check on my level 0 bomb. I revealed the climax, and I didn't really want to trigger the climax, so I end up playing the drop salvage. I was hoping to hold the drop salvage so that I could go get my combo later, but I decided to mill off the climax so that I can have a clean trigger, and it also gains 1,000 power, so now I'm power tying the middle lane. And of course I trigger the pants anyway. But now I have the level 1 pants in my waiting room at least, so I can go get my combo CX. And I've cleared the middle lane now, both on your side of the board and mine, so that my center runner has a place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I do proc the Fuka and get the same card I ditched, so that's fun. But at this point, I am able to get the resources that I need.
Yeah, I decided not to push the bomb up because I wasn't sure what your board was going to look like. And if I had 3 characters in the front row, potentially, and they all just died, then I'd be stuck with kind of whatever I drew. So I left the bomb in the back row. I only needed 2 stock on that turn, really. So, and also it triggered the CX. So now I don't have to go so far to get it out, because I really do want to have all 8 out and have clean stock.
That's fair. I debate swinging the 3rd time here with the Ricky that's still in hand. I could have bounced it back to hand with the Axel here, so I could have actually potentially used the Ricky on this turn and then bounce it back on this turn as well to get it back into hand for the next turn. I debated it pretty heavily here, but I decided that I wasn't quite ready yet for 1. I didn't want you to go to 1 either. So I chose to only swing twice here. The coin flip did proc, so I'm down to just the excellent field. And I wasn't going to proc it here. I have 7 cards in hand. I'm pretty okay going into this next turn.
So I'm able to pay out the CX. I have 2 copies of my combo in hand. I have the CX for combo in hand. So now I feel good about my level 1 turn. I feel confident now to actually push up the bomb and swing 3 times. You're at 06, like, you're gonna clear my board coming back, so I'm not super worried about losing my board now in the front row, so I can afford to be a little bit more aggressive. I trigger another pants as well, and I didn't know. I ultimately did the right thing and took the pants here, but I did not have a ditch out in my hand for the pants initially. So I actually kind of contemplated not taking it just because, like, I didn't want to get stuck with another pants in my hand. But I decided to take it and basically just hope that I hit one off the Brainstormer or that I draw something that'll allow me to get that pants out of my hand. Because in Revue Starlight, in particular in this deck, this is like the most vanilla deck you're ever going to see. It wins games by refreshing 8 out of 28, by proccing its Maguro combo 3 times, and just having enough resources to do its finisher. Like that's it. Like, it has an early play stock healer. It is the most normal deck you've ever seen in your life. But when you run a deck like that, your margins are smaller than something that's maybe a little bit more explosive or has more interesting level 0 tech.
So what's notable here is I used the Ricky to search my deck, but there was not another target of my level 1 combo in there. So I do grab a second copy of the stock charger to try to get through more cards in my deck, potentially. Hopefully trying to just get some additional benefit from that. I do have 3 climaxes in hand. I'm going to slam 1, but that does leave 2 that I'm not super keen on trying to keep 2 in hand. I would like to ditch 1 out here, but I didn't want to necessarily neg too much here. I could have grabbed the helmet essentially to go get the Magro combo from Waiting Room. That might have been a slightly more optimal play, just a -1 in hand to make that happen.
Yeah, that's a tough situation to be in, because your deck has a limited number of CX outs. So you really do want a Magro there. And like, again, like the reason that anyone plays a Magro is less for the plus. I mean, it's a +1, it's fine, it's extremely vanilla. But you really want to make sure you get to the end of deck 1 while you're still at 1. And if you had had a second Magro, you would have been able to do that. But not having the second Magro really hurts you.
Because now I'm 7 clean on the top of the deck going into your combo turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And granted, I don't know that, but I'm also going into my combo turn, so like, it doesn't really... Your deck state doesn't really determine my decision here. You know? So, like, you kind of, whatever happens, you know I'm about to go 2/2/2, which isn't ideal, because it's all about to stick, and you're going to be middle of level 2. That's, I think, one of the hazards of kind of middling level 0 into level 1 packages. Like, there's nothing bad about this package, but it doesn't have great filter tools on either side of the table, your deck or mine. Neither of us have amazing filters. You know, other than like the rote Rickies and CX stitches and drop searchers, like we don't have any like interesting specialized tech to deal with those extra CXs in hand, and we're both running pants triggers as well.
Well, see, the other thing is, though, I could have done the Amelia Bonder and got the 1 out of clock, too, so I could have technically had 3 on field, which probably would have been a little bit better play.
But then you're also running a really small hand at that point. You have 2 events and 2 climaxes in your hand. Like, so if you did get the Amelia Bonder and you played it, you have to sack the Bonder. Like, so you're losing even more cards in hand. You're in a situation where potentially you don't have much going on next turn unless you get something really nice off that Maguro. The good news is you get to refresh well, though, despite having 2 climaxes in hand, because you have 6 cards in your clock.
So going from level 1 to level 3, I decided to play for trying to get another turn out of this. And so I'm like, okay, if I'm going to try to get another turn, I need some more cards just to kind of like throw at the board, build a couple more resources to just try to do something with this. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to do here? If I'm going to try to do this, I have the event, I have the restander, I have one of the combo and the climax for it. So like, I just need one more piece for the end game if I'm going to try to do that. Ideally, another combo piece. Hit 2 out of the brainstorm. I'm like, perfect. Here's 2 potential stock charges. Let's try to make this happen. If I can get both of these stock charges to pop off, I should have this required stock that I need.
Yep, and that's, I think we're seeing more and more decks that don't necessarily lean as heavily on their combos, and instead use these kind of off-combo plussing tools, like this level 1, because it's free plussing, right? You're gonna get a +1 half the time, probably. Get about a 50% success rate with this. So every time you slam it, every time you swing with it, you have a chance to go +1. Especially in a deck like yours that's very stock intensive. Like we've talked about, the optimal amount of stock for your top end to do everything is like 13 stock to do all of the things, right? If you want to do every single thing that your top end can do, which is usually not going to happen, but you want to have as much as you can so that you can use as many of these abilities as you can.
Here, the ideal number is 9 to just try to get the base stuff going. I can only do like 3 out of the 4 things. So I'm kind of like looking around here trying to figure out, okay, if I'm not going to have 9 stock, what can I actually do then? So I'm kind of leaning into trying to play both of my events. Gets the reverse, I can get 2 burned ones. But you're also only at 2-1, so it's kind of like, okay, what am I actually going to need to do here?
Your thresholds for your combo are, you have like the 7 stock threshold where you get the restander and one of the maze, and then the 9 stock threshold is where you have the restander, but you get to put 2 of the maze with all those cancel burns onto the restander. So 8 is just not a great number, because there's no real way for you to get back up to get the second May off. So you are at best kind of looking at a single May. But one of the things that's really nice about this combo, in my opinion, is that no matter how much stock you have, anywhere from like 5 up to, ad infinitum, you have an option. There's a line. There are plays you can make, and they don't require fixing your hand additionally. It's just the more stock you have, the more stuff you get to do. I swing 3 times. I don't heal because I'm at 2-1. I try to win board so that I eat a little bit less damage coming back. That's my plan on that play. I'm trying not to use any stock because I need exactly 7 to get my full combo off. And I had to use a lot of stock earlier just to pay out CXs so that I would actually get my cancels. And I know that your top end is a damage-heavy top end, so I want to give myself as much room as possible to not die. So it was important that I pay those CXs out.
Here I chose to brainstorm, in part just because I'm like, okay, if I hit the brainstorm, great, I can get the card to hand. If not, I'll trigger it to get the card to hand either way. So I was trying to just help guarantee to get that 1 additional card in hand, because now I can effectively, I can make the choice, right, to do either double combo to the May like on themselves and not restand, or do the restand. I'm going to choose to do the restand here.
Well, you came here to use the restand, right? And that's another thing with the May. We've talked about this. There is a world in which, tap counter is, just kind of nukes your restander. But going into a deck that doesn't have tap counter, you can just do this freely. It doesn't matter. Everyone in the building can know what you're doing with your restander, and it doesn't matter.
Well, I can also potentially, if I have enough stock the right direction, I can just use the event instead of the Kai to be able to just restand the May itself, giving the ability to May and then restanding May to be able to do
exactly. And that's where you have the modularity in this top end so that you can play around things like tap counter, I think, pretty efficiently by comparison.
The downside to that, though, is the timing of that one is kind of like on attack, so you're still on the attack phase, so they could technically tap it to deny the second it.
Sure, and that's where you need to, you may need to open up a side attack, things like that.
Well, yeah.
But, even if you have to side around some things to get your cancel burns, then you're still in a decent spot just because of how good the cancel burn is, and the restander means that the cancel burn is almost certainly going to go off. Either you're sticking 6 or 7 damage with the restander's 2 swings, or you're sticking a 3 and getting 4 burns for 2.
Notably, I should have had one of those cards in memory in my next deck. It should have been in there. I didn't pay it out from memory when I'm supposed to with the May ability. So I'm technically 1 card compressed that I shouldn't be, but
you are at this point 6 out of 36. So in theory that shouldn't matter, but
just worth noting. But so I have the board. I'm at 3-2. You're at 3-0 now. You were able to cancel most of that. Like, you have your combo swings here.
And now I get to talk about my combo. I like this combo. The combo is with the 2 Mayas on the outside lanes. When they attack, they can give something else, and the target is the center lane. They give the center lane on attack, or when it reveals a soul trigger during its trigger check, you get to burn 1 twice. Both of the Mayas are giving that ability to the Claudine, and the Claudine on play top checks 3 and rearranges. So you can fix the 3rd card down to be a soul trigger, which is what I did, so that when it reveals, it burns 1 4 times, twice for each of the Mayas. And then you just double cancel, because I also have an on reverse pay 2 pitch to burn 3 that's meant to be like one last closing swing, and you cancel on 3, but you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, at this point I have 3 cards. I don't run a lot of soul triggers in the deck, and most of my soul triggers are now in the waiting room. So at this point, I actually cannot stick enough damage on you to actually close you out. But you can. So that's basically game right here, is I can't stick enough damage to actually close you out, and you can. So with that, that's basically game. But that actually showed off, I think, both the top ends pretty effectively. Like, you were able to show off the burn 4s, burn 1s 4 times. And then the restander combo was able to effectively restand, do the thing it's supposed to do. It had a significant number of instances of damage at you, of which you canceled more than half.
Yeah, no, I canceled a bunch of them, and I think that the fact that I canceled as much as I did, you didn't get the full combo together, and still did 7 damage. Like this, you did a single lane of May into that restander. I canceled most of the swings, and you still dealt what would have been lethal if I was at 3-0. And I think that's important. Like, that consistency is really important. Even when you didn't get everything together, you still end up doing what would be lethal in a 3-0 situation, which is like goal 1 of a top end, is you want to make sure that you're closing from 3-0. That's the most important number to hit. So the fact that the deck was able to do that when not in its optimal state is, I think, really important. And I also think that showing that the Magro into the Giovanna works really well. You can just use the Giovanna as an off lane if you don't have all 3 of your Magros. The Giovanna is just good on its own. It's going to swing at 7 pretty much whenever and get free stock every time it does. And that's better than the majority of those free stockers, right? Because there are plenty of cards that have free stock, or that get free stock on reverse at 1. But they're smaller, so they're only useful, up to level 1. But once level 2 comes around and your opponent's got bigger things on the board, it can't get those reverses. And yes, it does need a proc. It needs to show the level 1 on top. Like, it does have a failed chance, but it also has more utility over the course of the game because it actually has some size.
That, and it's also revealed information, right? So, like, it's not blind. So you actually also can tell what your deck state looks like still.
It's going to show up in basically every Guilty Gear list that can afford to run green, which I think most of them can, because most of them want to run that Brainstormer. Some of them want to run like the Coin Flip, the Milia Runner. So there's plenty of green in like your base Guilty Gear build, where I think that most decks are going to be able to run that Giovanna. I think that card is probably like the utility star of the set. It's
definitely an enabler card, right? It's trying to enable more of a top end, or more reach, essentially. especially with some of the different things that this set has. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how much of that is going to be beneficial going forward, for sure.
And again, like going back to what your top end does, most decks you have to hit a certain threshold. You have to get to 6, 7, 8, or 9 stock in order to do most things. Whereas this deck, it's like, okay, if we hit this threshold, we have enough to do this. This threshold, we have enough to do this. So the more of those level 1 kind of stock coin flips you hit over the course of the game, the more you just get to do at the end. And it's all gravy, too. Like, you're getting enough stock just through normal play, so that even if all of your Giovannas whiff, you still have enough stock to do things. But if you hit just a couple of them, you're getting an extra burn out of it, or even potentially an extra restander. But yeah, that's it from us. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Tuesday with a Clock Talk. On Thursday, we will have 5 cards, 5 minutes for Spy Family. The following week, Spy Family deck techs. We're going to talk about Spy Family and then more gameplay for that in 2 weeks. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.